The monsters inside the Tower of Demons just started running, not attacking, not hunting, running. And the thing walking out behind them, it's not a monster, it's a man. A man who was supposed to be dead, a man who has been waiting 20 years for this exact moment. To understand what's about to happen to this world, we have to go back. About 20 years ago, humanity came within inches of total extinction. The threat had a name: calamities. Massive, world-ending monsters that tore through cities like they were made of paper. Militaries tried, failed. Governments tried, failed. And just when it looked completely over, the zodiac gods showed up. 12 divine beings tied to 12 constellations each reached down and picked a human champion. These champions became known as saints: the Aries saint, the Leo saint, the Scorpio saint, each one loaded up with divine power, supernatural abilities, and relics, magical artifacts that made them even more dangerous. Together, the 12 zodiac saints became humanity's defenders, and the world absolutely worshipped them for it. But here's the thing, nobody tells you in the history books there was someone else. No zodiac god chose him, no divine ceremony, no official title. His name was Li Jian, and on every battlefield that actually mattered, he was there. Every time a calamity looked like it might genuinely win, Li Jian was the one who ended it. Not helped end it, ended it. The saints knew it, the gods probably knew it, and eventually that became a problem because a man with no master, no allegiance to any god, who is somehow stronger than all 12 chosen saints combined, that's not a hero to the people in charge. That's a threat. So 20 years ago, during what should have been a normal operation, Li Jian was left behind inside the Tower of Demons. No rescue, no communication, no exit. The plan was simple. The tower kills him, the problem disappears. The official story sold to the public was clean. Heroic death, tragic loss, gone too soon. And then the 12 saints quietly moved on and built empires out of the space he left behind. But there's one detail they got completely wrong. The Tower of Demons couldn't kill him, not in 20 years of trying. Year after year, the tower threw everything it had at Li Jian, creatures that would make modern elite hunters quit on the spot, and he kept winning. He kept adapting, he kept getting stronger, and now, in the opening pages of this manhwa, we see exactly what 20 years of that does to a person. Deep inside the tower, massive creatures are moving, not in attack formation, in retreat. Things with scales, like castle walls and mouths, big enough to swallow vehicles whole, all scrambling in one direction, away. And then we see what they're running from. Li Jian, strolling out of the tower, not sprinting, not barely escaping, strolling. He glances back at the monsters still tripping over each other to get away from him, and the expression on his face is somewhere between mild amusement and boredom. 20 years in the world's deadliest dungeon, and this man looks like he just finished a light jog. He steps outside for the first time in 2 decades. The world he walks back into is completely unrecognizable. New cities, new technology, new faces. The saints aren't just warriors anymore. They're celebrities, corporate heads, political figures. The 12 most famous people on Earth, each one sitting on top of an empire that Li Jian's absence helped build, his contributions edited out, replaced, slowly scrubbed from the record until most people alive today have never even heard his name. History is written by the winners, and the winners spent 20 years making sure this chapter stayed closed. Li Jian doesn't seem bothered by any of this. His personality is exactly what it always was: arrogant, blunt, reckless, and completely indifferent to how the world sees him. The arrogance isn't empty either. It's the specific kind that only comes from knowing with complete certainty that almost nothing in this world can actually hurt you. He doesn't look like a man who survived 20 years of hell. He looks like a man who used those 20 years to get ready. Meanwhile, across the world, certain people start getting very uncomfortable very fast. Strange energy readings near the Tower of Demons, monster behavioral anomalies, combat reports describing something moving inside that doesn't match any known creature pattern. Analysts argue over the data, but the Zodiac Saints, the ones who know exactly what they did 20 years ago, they don't need an analyst to tell them what this means. They go quiet. The specific kind of quiet you go when a problem you thought was buried for good starts digging itself back up. Some of them start panicking immediately. Others go into denial. But the one thing every saint who was there 20 years ago shares right now, nobody wants to say his name out loud. Saying it feels like summoning something. One man is handling this differently. Hugo Otis, the Archer Saint, one of Lee Jian's closest allies. Before the betrayal, one of the few who never turned on him, gets the reports and flat out refuses to believe it. He spent 20 years carrying the weight of what happened, the grief, the guilt, the knowledge that his friend, the strongest man he ever met, was left to die in that tower. So when the first hints surface that something impossible might be happening, Hugo doesn't get excited. He's been hurt before. He's not about to open that door unless he's absolutely certain. But the evidence keeps stacking up. Energy signatures that don't match any known saint or relic. Creature kill patterns that suggest a single fighter dismantling things full professional squads can't handle. And then something small, a combat style, a specific rhythm of movement that Hugo recognizes down to the bone from 20 years of fighting next to the same person. His hands aren't steady when he reads the report a second time. It can't be him. It has to be him. And if you want to see what happens when they actually meet, you already know what to do. The reunion between Hugo and Lee Jian is one of the best moments in these opening chapters. Hugo is expecting what? A broken man? Someone changed by 20 years of isolation and suffering? What he gets is Lee Jian looking at him like no time has passed at all. Same energy, same attitude, zero acknowledgement that anything unusual just happened. Like walking out of the world's deadliest dungeon after 2 decades is just something you do between errands. Hugo can barely hold it together. 20 years of grief and guilt and complicated emotion hits all at once. Lee Jian appears to notice none of this, which is completely on brand. Their old chemistry snaps back instantly. Lee Jian doing the impossible and barely caring, Hugo being the only person around who fully understands how impossible it actually is. And this moment does something important for us as viewers. It confirms not every saint was part of the betrayal. Hugo is still here, still loyal. He becomes the bridge between Lee Jian's lost past and this world that erased him. But Lee Jian doesn't have time for sentiment. He's already moving. His investigation starts immediately, and it goes exactly how you'd expect from this man, directly, aggressively, and with very little patience for anyone who gets in the way. He starts pulling threads, and what he finds is ugly. The 12 champions who were supposed to protect humanity spent the last 20 years building personal empires, political influence, corporate wealth, global organizations that answer to them and no one else. The heroic image the public sees, the statues, the speeches, the documentaries, is almost entirely manufactured. Behind it is manipulation and exploitation on a scale that would genuinely shock most people. The first group that finds itself directly in Lee Jian's path is connected to the Snake Saint faction. Shadow operators, they use the Snake Zodiac's influence to control information, neutralize threats quietly, and protect the system that's been running things since Lee Jian disappeared. They have trained fighters, they have relics, and they have a lot of confidence in their ability to make problems go away without anyone noticing. That confidence lasts until Lee Jian shows up. The fight, if you can even call it that, is short, brutally short. Operatives who are considered elite by every modern standard get dismantled, not outmaneuvered, dismantled. Relics they spent years acquiring stop working the second Lee Jian decides he wants them. Because here is how this man operates. If it was connected to him, if it was taken from him, if it should have been his, he takes it back. No negotiation, no paperwork. He walks in, collects what belongs to him, and leaves. Whatever was standing between him and the door becomes a brief inconvenience. The Snake faction contacts go dark. Reports stop coming in, and the people waiting for updates on the other end start realizing something went very wrong. But what happens next is even worse for them. Word starts spreading through the hunter community. A person with no registered identity is wiping out elite teams. Organizations that were considered untouchable are losing assets overnight. Relic vaults are being emptied, and every single report shares one detail. Whatever is doing this is operating on a level that should not exist. Modern hunters have improved massively since the original Saint era. Better training, better relics, better understanding of divine power. By every reasonable measure, they should be the strongest generation in history. Then a full squad of them ends up in Lee Ji-yeon's path. These are not rookies, these are certified legends of the modern era, each one carrying relics that took years to earn with dungeon-clear records that put them in a completely different class from normal hunters. Lee Ji-yeon looks at them the way you look at a speed bump. The first hunter opens with a long-range relic strike, the kind that can level a building. Lee Ji-yeon moves before it lands, not dodges, moves like the attack was already behind him the moment it fired. The second hunter activates a defensive relic rated to withstand Saint-Level pressure. It holds for about 3 seconds. A third tries a combination technique he spent 8 years mastering. Lee Ji-yeon counters it, then takes the relic, powering it straight off his hands. The whole squad is on the ground before most of them even finish processing what's happening. The entire hunter community goes dead silent because that gap shouldn't exist. Not against modern elites, not unless the person they just ran into is operating so far beyond the current ceiling that there's no meaningful comparison, and that raises a very specific, very uncomfortable question. If Lee Ji-yeon is this far ahead of the best hunters alive today, what does that make him relative to the Zodiac Saints currently running the world? The Saints already know the answer, that's why they're scared. As Lee Ji-yeon continues, he starts recovering relics tied directly to his past, not just any relics, artifacts connected to whatever he actually is, to the specific kind of power he carries. When he gets them back, the effects are immediate. Abilities that were already past any reasonable limit start consolidating in ways that even Hugo watches nervously and hears where the lore hits something nobody expected. The world recognizes 12 Zodiac Saints, 12 gods, 12 chosen champions, one for each constellation, clean, stable. It's been the foundation of the global power structure for decades, except Lee Ji-yeon doesn't fit it. No Zodiac god claimed him. No constellation is assigned to him by every official record. He shouldn't exist as a saint at all. But the power he carries is undeniably divine, stronger than any single Zodiac saint, possibly stronger than several combined, which means the system has a gap in it nobody ever wanted to acknowledge out loud. A 13th slot, unchosen, not overlooked, deliberately unacknowledged. Because if the gods admitted he existed, they'd have to admit their system doesn't explain him. Lee Ji-yeon doesn't belong to their order. He never did, and that makes him something the Zodiac gods and their 12 saints genuinely have no category for, not just outside their control, outside their entire framework. The saints who learn this don't just get alarmed, they get the specific kind of alarmed you get when you realize you don't even understand what you're dealing with, and then the older generation starts waking up, veterans from the original era, people who were actually there when Lee Ji-yeon was operating at full capacity, start hearing the reports, the combat style, the destruction patterns, the way relic-based defenses fail against this person like they're made of paper. One by one, they reach the same conclusion Hugo did weeks ago. People who spent 20 years telling themselves a story about what happened back then, who convinced themselves it was necessary or that it was someone else's call, those people stop sleeping well. His name gets said out loud again, in private, in locked rooms, in conversations where everyone checks that nobody else is listening. Lee Ji-yeon, alive, back, and moving with the calm purpose of someone who spent 20 years deciding exactly what comes next. More relics surface, more factions scramble to reposition. The global relic market, stable under Saint influence for 2 decades, starts moving in strange directions. Artifacts that powerful organizations held for years vanish overnight. Relic users who are considered the best in the field start quietly declining certain jobs without explanation. The unspoken message filtering through the entire hunter world lands clear enough without anyone saying it directly: do not get in that man's way. Lee Ji-yeon barely registers any of it. He has targets, he has direction. Every relic he takes back, every corrupt network he dismantles, every squad that finds out the hard way what 20 years inside the Tower of Demons actually produces, it's all just progress toward what he came back for. By the end of these opening 30 chapters, the rumor phase is finished. It's not speculation anymore, not whispered reports, not analysts arguing over energy readings. The evidence is impossible to deny. Lee Ji-yeon, the man thrown into the Tower of Demons and declared dead, has returned. Not weakened, not desperate, not looking for recognition or reconciliation or any kind of explanation from the people who abandoned him. He knows what was done. He knows who benefited, and every single one of those people is now a target. The 12 Zodiac Saints spent 20 years building power bases, alliances, defenses, divine relics, political cover, loyal armies of hunters, and the complete faith of a public that has been carefully managed for 2 decades. On paper, they are untouchable. They have resources Li Jian doesn't, infrastructure he can't match, a whole world that has been told repeatedly that they are the heroes and he never existed. On paper, the system they built was designed to handle outside threats. It was never designed to handle Li Jian because Li Jian was supposed to be gone, and now he is already inside, already moving, already taken back everything that was taken from him piece by piece with a patience and precision that is somehow more frightening than anger. And behind everything, behind the saints, behind the relics, behind the political empires they've constructed, the Zodiac gods are watching. Their actual agendas were never fully explained to their chosen champions. Their interest in humanity's survival may not be entirely what it looks like, and Li Jian, who exists completely outside their system, who carries power they didn't grant and cannot revoke, who answers to none of them, is the one variable they never built a contingency for. 20 years ago, they helped put him in that tower. He came out the other side of it stronger than when he went in. The saints who betrayed him have nowhere left to hide. The hunters who underestimated him have their answer, and the gods watching from above are starting to realize something deeply uncomfortable about the man they assumed was removed from the board 2 decades ago. He's not a ghost. He's not a rumor. He's the most dangerous thing on earth. He's been sharpening himself for 20 years, and somewhere inside that tower he made a list. The question isn't whether he's coming. The question is, which name is first?